service pack come in, et cetera, et cetera. So 5 zeros. As far as replatforming is concerned, when you go from one platform to another, these numbers could be debated. Probably about 1 million lines of code. I showed this to someone the other day, said we probably have about 10 million lines of code. Okay, but 6 zeros. And then, as far as instructions with business requirements, testing scripts, etc., in the build, you're looking at about tens of millions of instructions. Where this has landed us is a place that is very expensive, and it's because we continue to wait on innovation instead of getting early in the journey. How many people know how much they spend per year per employee? From copper to case, so network, rack, storage, compute, software, everything. How much do you spend per employee every year? The great analysts of the world will tell you that it's somewhere between $14,000 and $20,000. That was the plug for analysts. About 14,000 to 20,000. The more compliant you are, the more. And it's because of the manpower to maintain this stuff. If you look at the P&L of a company that was paper-based and the P&L of a company that's completely digital, it hasn't really changed, right? We were supposed to use technology to reduce the amount of labor, manual labor that we use. The fact is, the guys that were pushing the papers around and had forms and they were stamping it and all that type of stuff, we just fired those people and we hired system engineers. The P&L looks exactly the same for most Fortune 500 companies when you look at manpower. We are at an average, from my estimate, for the clients that I work with, about $14,000 a year per employee to keep their IT infrastructure up. That's because we have human beings trying to do things that they're incapable of doing. You can take 20, 30, 200 people and ask them to run all the permutations. You're still not going to make it. When you re-platform, you can take 250 people and ask them to break down all that software. Still not going to be able to do it right. So you get a brittle environment that's extremely expensive. My sort of in scientific research tells me that about 80% of the spend is on humans. 20% of it is on machines and network and software licenses and that type of stuff, and technology. Now, if you were a CEO, how would you feel about your CIO that's supposed to be the most optimized, most efficient guy and gal that's spending 80% on labor, 20% on software, network, and compute? Are they a value creator or a cost center? A cost center. So when you're doing strategic planning, are you going to invite the cost center to the table? No, because everybody just magnifies what they do in strategic planning. Everybody just magnifies what they do in strategic planning. So if you're an 80-20 person, when you come into the strategic planning, you're trying to maintain 80-20. You know why? Because there's an impedance mismatch between your compensation and what you should do for the company. You get promoted because more people work for you. You get promoted because you own more applications. Why the hell would you put in a piece of capability that reduces your workforce by 50%? You'll never get promoted again. In order to be invited to the table, you have to be seen as a value creator, not a cost center. How many people have seen the theory of diffusion of innovation chart? All right. The guy that didn't know the flux capacitor. Sir, have you seen the theory of diffusion of innovation chart before? You're over 2, man. I don't know what's going on. We gotta spend some time together. So this was put together by a guy named Everett Rogers. Geoffrey Moore wrote Crossing Chasm famously about this. And said, look, here's how innovation gets diffused in the world. In the consumer space and in the enterprise space as well. The problem with us is that we wait until innovation gets somewhere here before we adopt it in the enterprise. Right? We wait until Gartner or Deloitte tells us that it's here and then we can adopt it. The reality is, if you want to go from a cost center to a value creator, you have to pick up innovation somewhere down here, where Frost and Sullivan is. Nobody's getting that? Right? You have to pick it up over here. So the things that are over here is Salesforce.com's Roach Motel. I mean, that's the stuff that's over here. You got to figure out what's over here. What are the things in the early stages that you can capitalize on, that are available, that these guys are going to conferences trying to get your attention to sell it to you, and you're getting it on the tail end, 3, 4, 5 years after. I'm going to drill in on one specific capability that's on that left side of the curve. You guys remember this? Right? This is your bias that you go into a strategy session with as a cost center CIO. how do you at least get to 50? How do you at least get your P&L to a place where only 50% of it is humans, the other 50% is automation, technology, something like that? One of the really, really cool pieces of innovation is artificial intelligence. Remember that slide that I had before where I had 50 guys doing 100,000 permutations, right? Or 100 people doing 1 million different lines of code being remediated? Artificial intelligence is at the state, and I'm not talking about artificial intelligence where someone wrote a really good formula and then they're optimizing the formula around it. I'm talking about real AI that grows for years, like Meg, that learns and predicts. AI is at the state where I can go into your network. I can scan every single application on your network to a level of HD detail almost, where I understand the digital blueprint of every single application that you own, beyond the levels of the system engineer and the system design. It's like going back to a blueprint of every single app. Ports, memory, everything that it needs. Then I can take that and ask artificial intelligence to throw a load of permutation at it to understand how much it consumes and where the fault tolerance around it, and then take that memory map, so to speak, and then just stamp it into a completely different platform. In weeks. Running hundreds of millions and billions, if you want, permutations against it. That's completely different from asking 250 guys to remediate 1,600 applications. I can talk to you a little bit about this if you want, but I'm not going to go too much into AI. The reason why I'm finding most of my customers and clients and people I advise are not adopting these types of technologies or these types of innovations. They don't like to go on the left side of the curve. It's because they believe there's a cognitive gap. They believe that people actually don't know how the enterprise works. It's like, oh, you got something cool, but you don't understand how special my job is. And I think that is a huge mistake that we're making as CIOs and CEOs. You have to be able to get early inside of the innovation and lift it out and make it enterprise ready. That's how you create value. Just imagine if you can go from 80% manpower to 50% manpower on your P&L. How many people have more than 1,000 people working for them in IT? That's 300 people off the P&L. At an average of $150,000 a year per FTE. Can someone do the math for me? Who's like the math genius in the room? It's time for me to do a dance. Everyone's falling asleep. 5 million? 45 million. Okay, good. I'm like, 5 million, that's it? I flew all the way to San Francisco to tell you it's going to save $5 million? Jeez, that's horrible. Most people think that new innovation actually creates compliance concerns for you. The reality is, if you look over time, most innovations actually make you more compliant. Go do the math, go do the study, unhook from the common sense. And of course, no one else is doing it. The bottom line is, it's clear. We are stuck in this 80-20 mode because we fear the ability to go from a cost center to a value-creating center. We are still taking the innovations on the right side of the curve and trying to become a value-creating center out of it. Let me just delve in a little bit more deeper as to why is it that when you pick it up on the right side of the innovation curve, you can't create value. Because someone else picked it up on the left side and is building a business out of it. It's okay, guys. Just keep throwing me off guards. Like, whatever it is that you feel you want to do to throw me off, just keep at it. Don't make it easy. Think about it, if you could have gotten cloud computing at a price that it was on the left side of the curve as opposed to buying it from the big cloud providers, you would have cut out their margins. When you buy it on the right-hand side, you can't become a value creator because you are paying them the value. Does that make sense? Yes? If there's one thing that you walk away with the understanding that when you buy on the right side of the theory of diffusion of innovation curve, you are paying the premium already. You got to buy on the left side to create cost for your organization. Yes? Everybody get that? That's like the one, if you ever see me in the future, just remember, he was the guy that said buy on the left side. And he also said the future was the plastics for that. cognitive break for a second. I've taken you on this journey for about 30 minutes. But this is what you're dealing with. 1 million publications of common sense. Now, when I actually, through my PhD, I'm reading all these like peer-reviewed research reports now, right? There's actually like 40 million. Because nobody ever reads a dissertation except their mom. They're all in there, right? And so there's tons of this stuff that's just not helping. What I believe that will help is the counterintuition. This is not a perfect model. You should come up with your own. You should create your own 9 things that I want to go against and get the buy-in and describe why is it that I want to stop being a cost center and start becoming a value creator. I might say, Richie, this is all bullshit. Well, no. I use Google. Can't be. You can't see this, so I'll explain it to you. This says 1808. This says 2008. So during that time period, every time certain words were used in the English language only, management is up here. Leadership, transformation, innovation, disruption, counterintuition, and counterintuitive, all the way to the bottom. So when I first looked at this chart, I'm like, okay, that's great. No one ever really talked about counterintuition or being counterintuitive. So I delved in a little bit more. I was a map miner, come on. Here's counterintuition and counterintuitive. Sometime around 1700, and go back to all the philosophers of knowledge and study and think about how we got to where we are today, we started to realize that the way to outpace the competition is to be counterintuitive. You can't follow the herd. You can't be 80-20 forever. You don't need to take my word for it. These guys, Paul Graham, if you don't know who he is, nice guy, huge counterintuitive advocate. You should know this guy. He's famous in this day. Huge counterintuitive advocate. Jeff Bezos, notorious for it. I love this one. Change your mind a lot. So people ask these very, very successful people, how is it that you were able to do what you did? And they basically said, I was counterintuitive. Everything that I read in 1 million publications, I did something completely opposite. Our buddy, this guy who I think is the luckiest man in the world. All of it, counterintuition. The question is, are we ready? How do we get there? What's the story? Change itself is changing. What can we do above counterintuition? The scholarly knowledge that we need, the practitioner knowledge that we need, the leadership framework that we need. I'm going to end on this slide. I joined the industry in 1996. I'm actually a lot older than I look. In my first pep talk when I got on the floor was, we have to align business and IT. How long ago was 1996? 18 years ago. I was just at a conference last week, and the first pep talk that we started with the align business and IT. I'm like, it's been 18 years. Okay? If you guys haven't freaking figured out business and IT alignment as yet, you're in the wrong business, you're working for the wrong company. Okay? The reason why I put up this slide is that even if you are aligned, you could still be going in the wrong direction. Alignment doesn't mean you're going in the right direction. So I sit down with people who are like, well, here's what my business is trying to do. I want to do exactly that. I'm like, well, how do you know they're going in the right direction? Well, they set the rules for me. Like, why did they set the rules for you? Well, because I'm a cost center. No CEO will not invest in something that will give them returns as a value creator. Right? That's what you do as a businessman. So I'm almost poking at our type of work here, which is stop worrying about aligning business and IT. If you're not going in the right direction anyway, why be aligned? I got to figure out how to get 20 bucks from someone. The reason why I call it the Hydra model is because Hercules is the second. What's the Hydra? Monster with 9 heads. So I was thinking Hercules is second or third. I gotta get this right. Hercules had all these things that he had to do. They were insurmountable. He had a monster with 9 heads that he has to kill. It was the second one. This is really difficult to do. It's not easy. It's a Herculean effort. But if you want to really deliver value to your organization, you've got to be counterintuitive. You got to take the Herculean step. You got to get it done. That's all. I believe I'm out of time. I'm 2 minutes over. Press cell phone, email, office number, all the rest of the crap that I do when I'm supposed to be sleeping or spending time with my girlfriend. We have time for one quick question. Guys?
Yeah, we'll go quick. We're a little over. So, any questions? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk a little bit about business alignment because the treacherous state that we find ourselves in sometimes is weak. You want to talk about this? Nope.
Number 5.
Sorry.
5.
Yeah,
We're on.
could you talk about business alignment a little bit? Because I agree with you that the treacherous state that we find ourselves in is that for us to innovate, we have to be aligned and going in the right direction that may or may not be where the company's going. But at the same time, if we're not aligned, you get fired. And if that divergence becomes apparent, you get fired. So it's how do you anticipate, nudge the organization in the right direction when sometimes they don't want to go in that direction?
Give back money. So most of the projects that I've gotten funded, in the beginning stages of it, they were funded with money that I saved. So I come back to my board and I say, guys, we just saved $500,000 on blah, 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 blah. I stand behind this, here's how I did it. Can I keep 300 to do something? I know it's not the best answer in the world, but it's what works for me. If you can save money, you get the right decision. You will never be able to get someone to give you more money if you're running an 80-20, you know. Thank you very much. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you